So, yesterday we had the greatest Royal Rumble, and it actually wasn't as long as I thought it would. It actually went 5 hours, but as I kind of guessed that this was kind of a one-off type of deal, and it wouldn't affect anything story-based, because it was played Friday, basically during the day, and for those on the West Coast, early in the morning, and people still had to go to work and go to school. So a good amount of folks weren't going to find out what was going to happen unless they watched on their phone or missed work or school. So I think the WWE just wanted to put on a decent show for the folks out in Saudi Arabia, and it was a decent show. And I'm not going to go too much into each particular match. Um, they were what they were. So I'm going to do a quick. I think I got about six of my predictions right. I'll see if I remember each one because honestly, I don't. I mean, when it comes to wrestling, I guess, and if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So let's kind of go in order of the show here. So the first match was John Cena versus Triple H, and I have to say one thing about Triple H. He's been wrestling since forever, but the man is just as jacked and shape as he ever was. In fact, I think he's even in better shape. I don't know what he's taking, but give me some of that. So those guys put together a decent match, and in the end, John Cena won. And he kind of, when he came out, there was a bunch of kids wearing his outfits and everything. And my son asked me, he goes, "Who do you think those kids are?" And I said, "I bet you those are the kids of the royal family." And as we're watching the match, you kind of see behind uh, the ring a bunch of people kind of dressed similarly in the same outfit and robes, and those are the robes of the royal family. And then as we got later into the match, you start seeing all these kids wearing those same shirts, and I kind of guessed that those are the kids. And I think this is kind of a show just for the royal family, and they just invited everybody else, just and hey, they can afford it, so. And I think Vince made a ton of money, so it was all cool. And after the match, John stopped and said, thank you to everybody. And that kind of tells me that John is probably incredibly popular in Saudi Arabia. And, they went out there and did a show for them. So, anyway, let's keep going here. The next match was Cedric Alexander versus Kalisto. And that was a pretty decent match. Nothing, out of the ordinary. I think they all did their spots. And in the end, Cedric Alex won. And I predicted that one. And next, you had the Woken group. Not a big fan of these guys, Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt. I actually like Bray Wyatt, but I just don't like them as a tag team together. But they defeated Cesaro and Sheamus to become the new Raw Tag Team Champions. This was a tournament, and I kind of predicted that. I believe they'll probably hold the championship for a few months, and then they'll break up. And then, who knows, maybe Cesaro and Sheamus will win them back. But anyway, next. And I kind of called this one, and there was a match between Jeff Hardy and Jinder Mahal. And once again, Jeff Hardy won, I think, as I said, but this was a very, very weird match between the two because they just have so many different. They have two conflicting styles with Jeff being his way and Jinder Mahal doing. He's not as refined as Jeff Hardy. I'll put it that way. And this was more than blatant when during a particular at the end of the match. Um, Jeff Hardy climbs up the turnbuckles to do his, I believe, his Willow and the Wisp, where he jumps up and flips around. And the way it was supposed to work, as far as I can tell, was he was supposed to hit Jinder Mahal, and Jinder was nowhere near where he was supposed to be. So Jeff Hardy hit the mat flat, and then Jinder, realizing he had screwed up, just basically flopped on the ground. And a lot of times, the way the camera is, it can kind of you can kind of argue that maybe he barely touched him or whatever. But the way the angle of the camera was, it was blatant that he missed Jinder Mahal, and Jinder wasn't where he was supposed to be, and for him to flop afterwards just looked really, really bad. And it was even worse when I believe it was Corey Graves kind of had to give an excuse for Jinder, saying Jeff missed, but I think he hit the ground so hard that it caused Jinder to fall. I mean, it was pretty bad. Please don't have these guys wrestle anymore. And Jinder really, really needs to refine his craft. He's just not up to par to a lot of the wrestlers up there. And if he's going to get a push, he really needs to step up his game because he does a lot of mental errors, and you can only cover for him for so much. He needs to get his stuff to act together. So we have next here the Bludgeon Brothers beating up the Usos, and that was a typical Bludgeon Brothers killing the Usos. I thought there might have been a bit of interference with somebody else, but nothing of that effect happened, and the Bludgeon Brothers won. So next we have the ladder match, and that was actually a pretty decent match. Everybody did some decent spots. It went a lot quicker than I thought it would, and what I thought was really cool was Seth Rollins ended up keeping the title, so no changes there. Because I think I wanted the Miz to win that one, but the way he won was really cool because you had Finn Balor just seconds away from grabbing the title, and Seth Rollins basically, who's outside the ring, flips up off the top rope onto the ladder to take the last couple steps and grabs it. That was a pretty incredible show of athleticism there, and it could have gone really really bad if he had screwed it up. One other thing was that as he pulled the belt down, part of the belt hit Finn Balor in the head, kind of cut him open. So Finn had to take a few stitches for that. I thought that was kind of sad for him. Anyway, it was what it was. So, next match, you had AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura. And, that match was doing okay. And then, it turned into a double count out. So, like I said, I had predicted AJ Styles to win. And he didn't win, but he didn't lose the championship. And that was ultimately my thought. He wasn't going to lose the championship there. And so, I was right. So, after that, we had Undertaker and Rusev in a casket match. And I knew Undertaker was going to win. I predicted that one, but I have a feeling the only reason the Undertaker even went out there was because he's probably incredibly popular in Saudi Arabia as well, and he was going to get a huge payout. And it was a quick match. I mean, he went out there. It wasn't a squash match like it was at WrestleMania, but he went out there, did his thing for a few minutes, and then he threw Rusev and the other guy, Alex English, I think, into the casket and won. Um, so that's what it was. And so for the last match, quote unquote match, you had Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns, and Brock Lesnar, quote unquote, won simply because Roman Reigns speared him through the steel cage and onto the ground. And the way the rules goes is, the first one whose 2 feet touches the ground wins. So Brock Lesnar rolled off onto the ground first. So more of a technicality. But that was actually a interesting match between the two. It actually kind of took away from the dominance that Brock Lesnar did on WrestleMania 34 and kind of gave Roman Reigns just a little bit more power there. So that was a halfway decent match. And all in all, like I said, it really didn't change anything. If you watched Raw and SmackDown, and when you watch Raw this upcoming Monday, you'll realize really nothing's changed other than we have new tag team champions based off a tournament. But everything else stayed the same for the most part. And then at the end, we had the first ever 50-man Greatest Royal Rumble match. And I have to give Daniel Bryan all the props in the world. He came into as number one, and he lasted all the way until I think all 50 guys were in, and he was like the third or fourth one out. Not the third or fourth one out from the beginning, but one of the last ones thrown out. To clarify, I think all in the end, I think Big Cass threw him out, and then it was Big Cass thrown out by Braun Strowman for Braun to win the match. So I think Daniel Bryan was thrown out 47th or 48th, if you will. And so for him to last that long for a guy who hadn't wrestled in 3 years due to his injuries is quite commendable, because I thought he was going to be thrown out rather quickly since he was number one. But he went out there and he did his thing and he lasted, and he did not look like he missed a beat. So that was really, really cool. We had some surprise entrants. Of course, we had Rey Mysterio, we had Chris Jericho, we had the Great Khali. But I have to say, probably the biggest surprise was some sumo guy that I had never heard of before. I'm not a big person into sumo, but I hadn't heard anything about him being signed to WWE or anything like that. But he came in and they quickly threw him out, so it was inconsequential. But I do have to give a few seconds to Titus O'Neil, who had the biggest impact of the night. And if you hadn't heard about it or hadn't seen it, I'm gonna go ahead and spoil it here. And if I find a quick GIF or anything, I might include it in this particular recording. But as he was running into the ring, he slipped and fell, and he slipped all the way under the ring. And it I actually missed it because I was half paying attention. But when they brought it up on the commentary, and then the show just kept showing the fall over and over again. But what made it even funnier was that Corey Graves, who he's very good for an announcer. I've seen him on NXT, Raw, uh, SmackDown, and he's very good, very bright. Is always on top of things. The man can, cannot keep a straight face while he was announcing. He just started laughing and could not stop because it was just so funny. And then they had to show it over and over. I think they replayed that fall like at least 7 or 8 times on the special. And I have a feeling we're going to see it a few more times. We'll probably see it once or twice more on Raw, and then when Titus comes out to recruit somebody to Titus worldwide, people are going to bring that up because it was pretty funny. So that's gonna be one of those things. Almost, I think there's a GIF out there that shows him as a Shockmaster falling, and that's gonna be pretty darn funny. And I believe Titus O'Neil took it with a grain of salt. I think he put something on Twitter that he was gonna start making merch, so he can monetize that particular scene. And hey, more power to you. You take a lemon and you make lemonade out of it. I have to give you props. If you can make some money off of that, hey, I give it to you, bro. So anyway, that was the 50-man greatest Royal Rumble out in Saudi Arabia. Looks like the folks out there had a lot of fun, and I will have to say there were also a lot of botches in this particular show, where I don't know if the wrestlers were just tired and jet lagged because they had to do Raw Monday and SmackDown on Tuesday, so they basically I presume flew out Wednesday or Thursday and landed uh, Friday or Saturday our time. Well, they would have to have landed Friday local time in the United States, and the thing was I presume Friday night since it was so early. So anyway, I'm pretty sure, and then they had to do a lot of meet and greets and a lot of other things out there. So I'm pretty sure the wrestlers were incredibly tired. I saw an interview with AJ Styles, and he kind of rambled on, and he looked tired. But in the matches themselves, there was a lot of slip ups, a lot of falls. I mentioned about the Jeff Hardy botch with Jinder Mahal, but somebody else, I think it was Sin Cara, was going to make a move off of a rope, and he slipped. Um, just a lot of slips. So, it is what it is. Nobody's ever perfect. I sure as hell am not. But I enjoyed the show. It was a good show, something fun. I would like to see something like this again. Maybe not as rushed together. Maybe something a little bit more planned in the future. And I think as they, go back to Saudi Arabia in the future, we'll probably see some good shows there. So that's it for me. What did you think about the greatest Royal Rumble? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Post it in the comments below. If you liked my particular thoughts on it, hit that like button. You can also subscribe, and hit that notification button, and you'll be notified of future rants and ravings when it comes to TV, movies, or anything else that I feel like talking about. So anyway, that's for me, and I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.